Welcome to this edition of Under the Radar for Saturday, March 4th. And let's dive straight into today's topic of ban everything. University bans phrases such as right-hand man and gentleman's agreement in favour of gender-neutral terms. A university has banned phrases such as right-hand man and gentleman's agreement under its code of practice on inclusive language. Cardiff Metropolitan University's guidance dictates that gender-neutral terms should be used where possible, adding that students should not allow their cultural background to affect their choice of words. It advises that the terms forefathers, mankind and sportsmanship should be avoided as part of efforts to embrace cultural diversity through language. Forefathers, are you sure you want to ban that? Because you're undermining patriarchy theory. You can no longer point to the oppression by forefathers because you've whitewashed them from history. It's just ancestors now. I don't know, it gets all very confusing. Let's have a look at what else is on the list. Housewife, yeah, that's oppressive. But look at the alternatives they offer. Shopper, consumer. Isn't that worse? I mean, the label housewife usually entails the idea that you do a number of things, that you're a jack of all trades. Geez, that's sexist as well. Jill of all trades, like shopping, cleaning, picking up the kids from school. Now you're being reduced to a single function. Or is it situational? So you're a shopper when you're doing the shopping and a cleaner when you're doing the vacuuming. I mean, this is a great conversation starter, isn't it? I mean, you're at a party and someone asks you, what do you do? And you say, well, right now I'm a consumer having a drink, but tomorrow I'll be a shopper when I go to the supermarket. And then I'll come home and I'll be a cleaner doing the laundry. And at about 3 p.m, I'll be a transportation service when I pick up the kids from school. Oh, so you're a housewife. Now, most of these words are just there because they have the word man in them. And as Dr. Joanna Williams from the University of Kent noted, it's a very authoritarian attempt to control the way people think and the language people use, she said. The idea that in a university people need to be dictated to in this way is really insulting to students and academics. We should be able to cope with words. These words have evolved over a long period of time and they don't have sexist associations. Exactly. Language evolves over time through common acceptance and usage, not by the dictates of some self-appointed moral authoritarians. I mean, the moment you ban a word, you've now made it more tempting to say it, just to take the piss. But the kind of people who come up with this stuff don't usually have a sense of humour, you may have noticed. Now, you may be thinking this is nothing new. A lot of universities have these speech codes. The difference here is that other speech codes I've seen are usually pitched as guidelines or recommendations. This is actually ensconced in a code of practice. Although there's no mention of what happens if you don't adhere to this politically correct nonsense. So I don't know what the penalties are for violating the code. Although I'm guessing an employee of the university probably won't do well on their annual review. So staying with the theme of banning things, Michigan State University is banning whiteboards in dorms to cut down on harassment. Sharing a communal bathroom, buying twin XL sheets, eating late-night pizza, leaving messages on a friend's dorm room whiteboard down the hall. All could be considered quintessential experiences when it comes to life inside a college dorm. But starting this fall, Michigan State University will no longer allow students to hang whiteboards outside their dorm room doors, saying the ubiquitous dry erase boards have become too much of an outlet for anonymous, hateful messages. It had become more of a distraction than a helpful tool, MSU Residential Services spokeswoman Kat Cooper told WLNS News. You know, once in a while someone writes something that isn't very nice. Really? People write not nice things sometimes? Who would have thunk it? Cooper told the Detroit News that in any given month there are several incidents of negative messages, some racial and others sexual.
Oh, Jesus!
Ah, yes, because we can't have anything negative in anyone's life ever. So, several negative messages a month. But out of how many? That's the question that needs to be asked. What percentage of messages are negative? What if 99% of usage of those boards is useful? Well, it's a moot point anyway, because it turns out whiteboards have also been decreasing in popularity with the rise of social media and smartphones. MSU spokesman Jason Cody told the Washington Post in an email. Basically, whiteboards are no longer an essential communication tool for today's college students, he said. They are an attractive nuisance for whose utility no longer outweighs their abuse. For those reasons, the university decided to remove whiteboards from the list of items allowed on dorm rooms next semester. Oh, so it's not the negative comments. But if hardly anybody uses them, then why didn't you remove them sooner? I mean, texting and smartphones weren't invented last semester. Though university officials said there was no single incident that led to the ban, the Lansing chapter of the NAACP hailed the decision on Facebook as a response to a recent case in which someone allegedly wrote the N-word on a whiteboard belonging to an African-American honours student at MSU. And for those of you wondering, the N-word is nigger. Now, I don't know why we do this. I mean, once you read the N-word, you know what it means. You're not fooling anyone. You're just making me say it in my head. More importantly, though, what do students think about it? Well, some of them aren't impressed. Several people decried the ban and the NAACP's response to it. Many felt it would do little to curb racism. How is this a victory when every dorm resident will be punished because of one racist idiot? What does this accomplish exactly? One Facebook user wrote in a response to the NAACP's chapter post. It seems to me you're giving more power to the racist. Should we have limited skyscrapers to only 10 stories after 9/11 in an effort to end terrorism? Help me to understand the reasoning and logic. Another user wrote that the university should have done more to find the student who left the racial slur rather than limiting everyone's self-expression and freedom of speech because one a-hole wrote the N-word. Jesus Christ, are we going to censor the asshole now? What an artard. Another person, he posited, could just as easily write something derogatory directly on the door in permanent marker. And that's probably where we're heading, banning Sharpies or pens because they have the potential to communicate hostile rhetoric. I mean, at this point, why not ban all forms of communication? They all have the same potential.
Well, another college tradition is dying a gruesome death for the sake of students' feelings. Administrators at Michigan State have banned whiteboards from the school's dormitories, or they plan to next year, because sometimes students let offensive messages wind up on them. Well, heaven forbid students ever be offended, so the boards had to go. The Lansing branch of the NAACP, meanwhile, has hailed the ban as, quote, a victory for the school's black community. We reached out to MSU for comment. They did not reply. Aaron Stevens, though, is a student there. He thinks the ban is a fine idea, and he joins us now. Aaron, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Tucker.
So it seems to me if you're going to ban whiteboards, why stop there? Why not ban pens and keyboards and other instruments of divergent opinion and just kind of suppress speech and everyone would be happy? I mean, it is kind of what's happening.
You know, as an MSU student and as an East Lansing resident, I think the whiteboards kind of distract from the bigger issue at hand. What we've got here is another student who feels the need to intimidate somebody in our community based on a different identity. And I think the whiteboard ban kind of distracts from that. What it does is it puts the blame on the method of messaging rather than addressing the message itself.
Right, but I mean, the method and the message are kind of intertwined. I mean, it's one thing to have opinions, but if I can't express them, I mean, they're not really opinions, are they? I mean, the promise of the First Amendment is not only do I get to think things, but I get to say them, right?
Right.
And in the interests of brevity, I'm going to leave it there. It doesn't get any better for this guy. He just keeps dodging the question and ends up making Tucker's point for him. I'll leave a link below if you want to watch the full clip. But anywho, let's finish with a victory against those that wish to ban free expression. GVSU settles with conservatives, gives up speech zones. Grand Valley State University is eliminating its free speech zone policy in response to a lawsuit from conservative students who were threatened with arrest on campus. The lawsuit was filed after campus police officers threatened to arrest students affiliated with Turning Point USA for rolling a free speech ball outside the designated zones. So I found this picture, which is not at GVSU but Citrus College. And you can see the Turning Point USA sign at the front there and the huge beach ball, obviously. And basically you just write whatever you want on the ball and roll it around, I guess. Grand Valley State University is eliminating its free speech zone policy in response to a lawsuit from conservative students who were threatened with arrest on campus. The lawsuit filed by the Alliance Defending Freedom on behalf of Turning Point USA rested upon an October incident in which members of the Conservative Club were threatened with arrest for rolling a free speech ball outside of schools' restricted speech zones on campus. Defendants knew or should have known that by limiting plaintiffs' speech on two small areas on campus and requiring plaintiffs to obtain permission prior to engaging in speech with other students on campus, the university violated plaintiffs' constitutional rights, the lawsuit argued, noting that the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees plaintiffs the right to due process of law and prohibits defendants from promulgating and employing vague standards that allow for context or viewpoint discrimination in defendants' handling of plaintiffs' speech. Additionally, the lawsuit pointed out that the size of the school's free speech zones were disproportionate to the public campus at large, explaining that the two free speech zones combined equal less than a third of an acre, which comprises approximately 0.01% of the GVSU campus. So that means that 99.98% of the campus was not a free speech zone. And this is supposed to be a university. Unbelievable. In a separate incident, students with the same conservative organisation were prevented from distributing pocket constitutions on campus because it allegedly violated the school's solicitation policy. In order to do that, you've got to be approved by the Office of Student Life, a campus police officer explained at the time, asserting that the policy applies to any distribution of materials, even if one is not selling anything or asking for money. Now, ADF has reached a settlement with GVSU in which the school agreed to revise its expressive activity policies and pay the legal fees for the plaintiffs, totaling $11,000. All students should be able to exercise their constitutionally protected freedom to peacefully share their viewpoints with other students. The policy revisions Grand Valley State officials implemented in the wake of our lawsuit allow this to take place, and we commend them for respecting the First Amendment freedoms of their students rather than engaging in prolonged litigation. Well, that's very magnanimous, but it should never have come to litigation in the first place. The administrators at GVSU really need to rethink the whole point of a university. So let me know what you think about this university penchant for banning everything in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. See you next time.